Athlete Facebook page. I'm Ricky Hampton, along with fellow sports journalists Tim Turner and Michael Robinson, coming to you on a Tuesday. And fellas, we are joined by a special guest tonight, Mr. Phil Horton, the Director of Athletic Performance for NASCAR. We have the Daytona 500 coming up this weekend, right? The 14th is Daytona. That's the Super Bowl of the world of NASCAR. Phil, man, it is an honor, and it's good to have you on tonight, brother.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Phil. Well, with this being the big weekend, and of course, Phil and I have a history. If you guys didn't listen to the radio show, Phil and I go back to the Bucks days of the 90s when he was a trainer for the Milwaukee Bucks. He and I both saw the big dog get ripped off for Rookie of the Year and all that stuff. And then, basically being underappreciated. And, but it was a great time. And then Phil was on my radio show at the time. Then we had Gary Howard there, Daryl Ledbetter. So it was a great time. And also the late Cal Patterson, miss him. We just found out that the Hawks are going to have their press room named after Sekou. So I wish they would have done that for Cal Patterson for the Bradley Center, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, so Phil, we got a lot of stuff going on with NASCAR. The Super Bowl of auto racing is coming up, but then also you got Bubba Wallace with the Jordan team now. So how exciting is that to see, and with this big race coming up?
Well, of course, I got a chance to meet Michael when I was training with the Bucks back in the early '90s. One of our athletic trainers, of course, they were really good friends because he came up from Chicago. So I get, he's probably not going to remember me because it's been a long time since I've talked to him, but I look forward to hopefully seeing him this weekend. And what does it mean? I mean, you have to understand, what the impact the NBA has on sports, period, let alone him coming into NASCAR and, really validating the sport as a major sport. That's what it does for NASCAR. NASCAR being a traditionally Southern-based sport, it's really not received by everyone. So for Mike to come in, he brings a lot to what we're trying to do and trying to grow. And the sky's the limit. We hope we get more owners like Mike.
Well, why don't you talk a little bit about your drive for diversity and what that entails for NASCAR? What is their program about? Well,
I'm the director of athletic performance and liaison for our youth drivers, and of course the pit crew coach for NASCAR's Drive for Diversity. This program is, the vision of Max Siegel, who was once the president of DEI, Dale Earnhardt Inc., before he got this contract to actually own and manage the diversity program and bring it to where it is now. Of course, Max is the CEO of USA Track and Field. But before that, he was a NASCAR man. And before that, he was Sony Records. So his history of what he had learned as the president of DEI enabled him to get this contract. Of course, he brought me in to manage the part that I'm managing. And then Mac Booker, of course, is our competition director for the drivers. And, this whole program is about bringing in minority drivers, minority pit crewmen, minority anybody who wants to have a career in NASCAR and move up through the sport.
Okay, so for a lot of people who don't know who Max Siegel is, the name belies the ethnicity. Max Siegel is a brother. If people don't know who Max is, and you'll be surprised to roll up there, seeing up there. So wanted to give you a heads up on that. So go ahead, Rick.
Phil, 23 years in NASCAR. I mean, you come from a HBCU background, Aggie pride. How has NASCAR grown from the time you came in to where it is now in terms of working towards a more diverse organization?
Well, even before that, being a North Carolina native, my family owned a service station there in the community. So we were NASCAR fans. I've been a NASCAR fan since I was 10. So, my dream was to be a race car driver, and things like that. And then football and basketball, second and third. But being a fan at such a young age, then of course, unexpectedly getting into it and then spending 23 years in it. At one time I was the only minority in the competition role, probably from 2000 to 2005 or whatever, before things started to change. So diversity, that wasn't on the radar. That wasn't anything that people were talking about. It wasn't anything that was happening, and then it changed. It changed. It had to change. It needed to change, and it did. But it wasn't on anybody's forefront at the time that I got into it. Fortunately for me, and I say that just by looking back, coming from the NBA, it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to get in and do what I did. As far as a pit crew coach, as far as a driver trainer, they respected the fact that I came from the NBA, and I think that opened a lot of doors. I think if I hadn't had that background, probably would have been difficult.
Well, along those lines, I know that they're trying to do a lot with the optics of it since last summer, I'm quite sure. And where Max came from was from a more progressive driver. Dale Jr. has always embraced diversity. He's always been that kind of guy. And you just wonder how, he's a younger guy. You wonder about the old heads and the people that have been diehard fans all along. You go up in the infield and see all those trailers, and people still try to pull those flags out there. But you do see a change now. You do see where there are more people of color in the pits, more people of color around the sport.
Oh, for sure. To be honest about it, there wasn't a lot of African Americans who really wanted to get into sport. We have to be honest about NASCAR's reputation and what it had from the past being a Southern-based sport. And so it wasn't anything that my friends or my family or anybody that I knew really wanted to be a part of. It was looked upon as that's not for us, so it wasn't a matter of them trying to stop us or anything. We weren't trying to get in. To be honest about it, I wasn't trying to get in, but as a entrepreneur and owner of an athletic training service business, they were just another client. So when I got into it, of course, I love the sport too. So that kind of, but from where I started to where it is now, here's what we have now. Since 2009, we have had probably 100 pit crewmen that have come through the program, that have actually took a look at the program. We've had about 75 that have came through. 65 have made it, have actually got a job in the sport. 55 individuals currently are part of the program now, with about 32 working full-time on the cup level. So it has grown from me, a couple of officials, one Xfinity crew chief, to over 100 some individuals in the last 10 years. Now that might not sound like a lot, but you have to understand, if you're an African American or if you're in a minority now and you bring something to the sport, you'll get it to the sport. It's not about being kept out of the sport. It's not about individuals, that don't want you there, which are certainly a lot, but it's not like they're not in a position of power to make those type of decisions. So it has grown tremendously. If you have something to bring to the sport, believe me, it's all about competition. It's about winning. So if you have something to bring, those teams, they're ready to listen. They're ready to listen and will bring you in and And because it's all about winning. It's just like football and basketball.
Well, granted, haven't been a lot of, and it works both ways. I don't know if too many people of color that really get into NASCAR. And I think it's because people haven't been to the tracks. And if you sit at home and watch television and think they're just making a bunch of left turns, you're really missing out on all that goes into it. I know when I was doing it with Carl Edwards' team for Aflac, got a chance to go up to Roush Fenway's facility up there in Charlotte, outside of Charlotte, and to see the work that goes into it. I mean, they have these simulators that simulate the conditions of every track in NASCAR. The driver, they have all these guys. I mean, there's a lot of science that's involved, a lot of engineering is involved in it. And people just think they're just getting there, sticking gas in their car and rolling. And it is far more intricate and far more involved. And the jobs are far more diverse than just doing those things.
Yes, for sure. One of the changes that I did see, and see what a lot of people don't understand is, coming from the NBA, you know, everybody wanted to be in the NBA, white, black, green, yellow, it doesn't matter. You know, that sport attracts everybody on every socioeconomic level, every walk of life, every profession. If they could find their way into the NBA, you know, that's something they would consider, you know, but NASCAR wasn't that way because it just wasn't a popular sport. That Confederate flag was a detriment to most minorities, especially African Americans, to even consider that sport. You know, me growing up from the South, I had seen it, but I was used to it, didn't like it, but it wasn't anything that wasn't normal from where I was from. You know, so one thing that did change when I got into the sport in '98, the Confederate flag was not something that was major. You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't something that only came years later in the late 2000s. Of course, after President Barack Obama was, elected president, and things started to change for white America, you know. And so then, as NASCAR is a microcosm of what's going on in the country. So then it really started to change that way, as far as fans and things and what they were displaying, and it just blew up. It really got large, and then that really was a detriment to minorities wanting to come. The reason I bring that up is because my job, you know, as for what I do for recruiting pit crewmen, it was hard. It was hard to tell young African American men and women, hey, NASCAR wants you to come to the sport. You know, when they go and Google it, they're like, are you kidding me? You know, so, but, you know, I had to think back and say, well, you know, that is what they're seeing. Something that I'd already became numb to, and it was a part of the sport as far as the fans were concerned, but not inside the garage.
Right. Not
so much. It was definitely in the infield and definitely on the outside of the track. But on the inside of the garage, it was no matter how anybody felt, it wasn't that way. It was a professional sport, ran by professionals, and you checked your personal thoughts at the door, or you might have a problem, no matter who you were.
Mike.
All right, Phil. What about when you guys had the ESPN series, and you had a lot of young drivers in there? So what was that like to have that on national and worldwide TV, and then to see where was your program?
Actually, that was BET.
Oh, BET, that's right.
BET. Right. That was BET back in 2010, Changing Lanes. Ludacris narrated it for us. That was one of Max Siegel's brainchilds, as far as us being announced to the world, you know, to the country. Hey, minorities, women, Hispanics, you name it. You know, NASCAR's all for that. So then that was our introduction with that 8-episode TV show that went on from November up until February, whatever, November. So it was great. You know, it was a great introduction. Now, it was confusing to the typical BET viewer. They could, you know, it was hard to understand what is going on here, you know, based on what our beliefs were and what we thought. So it was an eye opener for sure, no doubt about it, you know. And unfortunately, it didn't continue like it should have, because I don't think the BET crowd was ready for it. And I think NASCAR was, but I don't think the audience was, for sure.
Did you want to follow up with that, Mike?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Rick.
Hey, Phil, I got to give props to NASCAR in this time, in this heated time in our society. They took the measure to ban the Confederate flag from its races. And I want you to talk about that. And I know there had to be some backlash to that. And could you give us your take on the Bubba Wallace noose controversy?
Well, we'll start with the noose controversy first. Garage doors, you know, the bay doors. And I had seen those before, even before that controversy, you know. And I thought about it when I saw it. I was like, oh, it's a noose. I was like, golly, I wonder how that, I wonder, you know, how that would go over if a lot of us saw that. I didn't think a whole lot of it because I've seen, you know, those types of nooses tied in a knot to pull a door open, but still the connotation of it probably wasn't good. And then when everything exploded during the summer, you know, somebody, you know, Bubba never saw that. He never saw that noose. A lot of people don't understand that. He never saw it. Somebody saw it. And I think because of the situation and the climate at the time, you know, they took it to the powers to be, and they felt like, hey, we might need to, you know, announce this and you know, do something about this if that is the case. Of course, further investigations found out that wasn't the case. That is something that had been there and had been in a lot of garages. And like I said, I had seen it. So it proved to be not what everybody thought it was, you know, on the surface. Now, you never know what people's intentions are, but that was something that was regularly done. But I'm sure you won't see that again. For the the other part was what, Bubba? The flag. Huh. Listen, when they banned the flag, you know, that was unbelievable. You know, considering the history of NASCAR and how deep that flag is ingrained in the fan base, you know, for NASCAR to make that decision was a monumental move in the direction that will ultimately lead to further success for the sport. They did the right thing, but to do it, you know, like I said, me seeing that was unbelievable. It was a major step in the right direction. I tell you, it made my recruiting easier. It's going to make recruiting of minorities to the sport easier. And it was a milestone moment. You know, I never would thought that. I would never, you know, would think that was ever going to happen. But for them to do it and to make that happen is a tremendous effort in the right direction. I applaud NASCAR for it. And it made me proud. It made me proud. You know, when I was a young fan, you know, I was proud to be a fan because, you know, I remember the last days of Wendell Scott. So I had a contemporary in the sport. I didn't view it that way. Of course, as I got into it and there were none of us around, you know, my love for the sport hadn't waned, but I did realize, you know, we had a problem, you know, and for them to do that made me proud to wear the gear, made me proud to be a part of it. And that's only growing ever since then.
Do you think is there like any additional pressure, outside pressure on Bubba, because he's like the only driver thus far? I mean, seems like he's the Tiger Woods of NASCAR, you know, that kind of thing.
You know, you got to know the psychic drivers of athletes. I don't think Bubba sees it that way. Mm-hmm. You know, Bubba wants to be a race car driver only. He wants to race. He wants to win. you know, he does understand the burden that has been placed on him, but I don't think he feels that pressure, you know, being the athlete that he is and that he is becoming. But I think he understands, you know, what it means. As far as pressure, no, Bubba's young, he likes to drive, he wants to win, he's having fun, you know, and I think a lot of people want to heap a lot of pressure on him, you know, but I don't think that pressure's there for him like that, because that's just not the way he thinks.
Okay.
You know, it's funny is that when that did happen, the first person I thought about was you. I think I said to Ricky, I said, I know Phil is feeling good about this. But are you happy that Bubba embraced it? He didn't pull a Tiger and basically say, you know, I don't like really being in this scenario. Whereas Bubba was like in front of it. You had all the drivers show support on that day with the cars lined up. So how did you feel about seeing Bubba do that?
Well, you know, Bubba came through our program, and I got a chance to get to know Bubba very well. I was even his personal trainer, even as one of his first years after he left our program. So, you know, we had several talks about this and about how that should be and about how that should go. And he formulated a philosophy on that even before this happened. So when he came out and did it, basically he had arrived. You know, he understood what it meant. He understood the responsibility of it. He understood, you know, that this was the time. And when he made that, you know, the decision to stand up and represent African Americans and other minorities, you know, that didn't come just overnight. It was something that he really gave a lot of thought to. We talked about it. You know, we had conversations. I told him my take on it, you know, from where I was coming from. And when he made that decision, he was in 100% full go. You're right. He didn't do a Tiger Woods. He didn't do those type of things where he tried to make it an inclusion thing and everything's rosy and everything's great and I'm just here to win. No. When he decided to jump in, he jumped in with both feet, did a tremendous job. And look how it turned out. You know, he made the move and he got the backing. So
I was just looking it up. I thought he had finished higher than what he did, but he finished 15th last year at Daytona, and just looking for a better run out of him this year. And
well, you know, he finished 15th, but he ran in the top 5. You know, there toward the end, and you know, super speedways is his forte, and he did the same thing at Talladega. And I mean, he has a chance to win Sunday. You know, if he can stay out of the big one, you know, he's gonna be right there in the top 5. I guarantee you. You know, when it all comes into it, barring any mid-race problems, you know, the big pack, you know, the way they wreck and everything because they run around so close together, he's gonna be in the top 5. He is just that good.
Hey, we're talking with Phil Horton, Director of Athletic Performance for NASCAR. Phil, you have had a remarkable career. Your work at HBCUs, your work in the NBA, and now NASCAR. A couple of things here. What's the difference? We can obviously tell the physical difference of a NASCAR professional and an NBA professional. Is there anything that you see out of these guys that's similar?
You mean the drivers as far as an athletic standpoint?
The drivers in the NBA compared to NBA athletes. I don't know, is there preparation? Is there any lines that you draw?
I'll tell you, you know, being the head trainer, you know, at Florida A&M and the head football trainer at University of Memphis, then of course with the NBA for 5 years, and of course working part-time with some NFL teams. I have been luckily privy to a lot of different programs, a lot of different athletes. And, you know, an athlete is an athlete. A competitor is a competitor. And when you look at it you can look at it for 2 ways. Physically, there are attributes that a driver has that an NBA player doesn't have, and vice versa. You know, the NASCAR driver is not looked upon as an athlete, but he's very athletic in the fact that he has to drive a car, you know, in excess of 190, 200 miles an hour for 3.5 hours with 39 other competitors around him. So the mental concentration is unbelievable. The hand-eye coordination, unbelievable. The stamina. The car's about 130 degrees inside. Okay, so then they have to have a lot of endurance, you know. So no, they don't use their legs. They don't run and jump, you know. It's unless they're getting away from a burning car, you know. But physically, it's challenging. You know, you think about it. You know, if you drive for 3.5 hours and you're on a 500 mile trip in a regular car on a hot day, even with air conditioning, you're a little tired, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, just think if you're battling 39 other drivers in the temperature, and you do have air conditioned helmets and things, but the temperature inside the car is 130, right? And you're trying to stay alive for 500 miles.
Yeah, that's the thing right there. It's like you got 39 other cats going 200 miles an hour, and you trying to make it to the end.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you're trying to make it to the end.
Hey,
so when you're driving 500 miles in a regular passenger car, and then you equate that to all that what you have to deal with in a race car, you better be in some pretty good shape. Because what happens is if you're not, they call it falling out of the seat. When you fall out of the seat, no matter what type of car you have, you drift to the back, and that's where you stay in safe territory. But sometimes the car not running good, and that's the reason you're back there. But a lot of times, sometimes it's because the driver is not physically up to par at that time. So all the ones running up front, they're in tip-top condition, and they are very athletic. Very. One of the things that I had to change when I got into it from training them from a stick and ball aspect was to understand what the driving was doing to them and what they needed to do in the weight room, cardiovascular wise, and I had to adopt programs and philosophies to that to make all that work. Fortunately for me, I was a fan of the sport, so I understood it even before I got there. So yeah, very athletic, very athletic. I couldn't do it, you know, and I was a 2 mile. I was a 2 mile runner. I was a 2 mile runner, pretty good. I was a state champ. I was a conference champion and finished 8th in the state. You know, so I was pretty good at the 2 mile. You know, and the mile. So I had a lot of stamina. But one thing I learned about these race car drivers is they have great cardiovascular systems, mainly because they control the stimulus for the heart. In other words, the outside excitement, they've learned to deal with that at an early age and control their heart rate. Well, when you can control your heart rate, you also control the rate of oxygen of what you're bringing in, and you can last longer. So very athletic, very athletic.
That is fantastic. One of our viewers, Tree McDougal, big supporter of the show, says she would love for Mr. Horton to speak to our viewers at Savannah State University. So you're building new fans coming on the show. And I think Tim can get in touch with Ms. McDougal. Maybe we can make that happen, and Mike can get in touch with you. So
sure.
Tree, we certainly appreciate you checking in. Mike.
Well, speaking of strategy, Phil, how do you guys decide when they should pit? You know, what goes into that strategy? And at what point you say, you know what, I think we're running low on fuel, or you know, this is a strategic time to do it.
Well, you know, as the pit crew coach, my job is, of course, is to practice all the different scenarios with the pit crew of what we're going to do when we pit. All right, you know, and then there's tons of them. There's 4 tires, 2 tires, right side adjustment with the wedge, the track bar, pull a rubber, put in a packer, which a lot of things you don't understand there, but that helps with the handling of the car, everything that I just said. And of course, changing the tires gives them more traction.
Yeah, so you were there. Were you there at that? I guess at Daytona? There.
We lost him.
Okay, he's back.
Yeah. So that's just the strategies of what we have to practice and learn how to do. The crew chief is like the head coach. That's the individual that talks to the drivers and gets all the information, the feedback from the drivers of how the car is handling and how things are going. And with their expertise and with their expert knowledge, they can figure out what the best strategy is. It's our job to pull it off during the pit stops. It's the crew chief and the driver's job to come up what the best adjustments are to make the car better and help the driver go faster throughout the race. A lot of strategy involved. The crew chiefs are now from engineering, something that we're looking to recruit too. You know, engineers, mechanical engineers that want to come in and learn the strategies and learn about building the cars and setups and like that. And that's one of the things that we're gonna do that.
And you're talking about the strategy and what goes on, and it does have a lot to do with the material. And tires are huge. Harkening back to 1 year at the Brickyard up in Indy, where they had a bad batch of tires, and they had like they only ran like 10 laps, and everybody had to come in and change the tires. Yeah. So
yeah, I was there.
Yeah,
and you know, a lot of what goes on with that is the setups. The crew chiefs want to run, and the drivers want to run. You know, the tire manufacturers will tell you real quick, hey, that setup might not work. You know, but then the crew chief, the head coach said, well, let's set up. We want to work. We want to use. So there's a balancing act between getting the right compound, picking out the right tires before the race. You know, Goodyear does a lot of testing to make sure that the teams get what they want and the tires, you know, are perform excellent like they do every weekend. But there's a lot of strategy in that, and if you have some type of setup that goes against that, you might be in trouble.
We're only going to keep Phil a couple more minutes, man. We certainly appreciate you checking in with us tonight. Hey, what makes a great driver? Why are the great drivers great? And what makes a great pit crew?
That's a good question. What makes anybody great is really the question. What makes any athlete great is in any pit crew. And just to sum it up, in my words and what I have seen and witnessed and been a part of, the ability to concentrate on the task at hand and take the fundamentals of what you have learned and actually use them under pressure. You know, you can practice, you can train, you can be the strongest, you can be the fastest, you can be all of those things. But if you can't make that work at the proper time, at the precise time, is what separates you from being a great physical athlete to a great performing athlete. That's the difference.
See, isn't essentially all the cars are identical in terms of specs? It's pretty much your strategy and the driver and your the pit crew and the guy you got up there sitting up there on top of the box, spotter. All that goes into it. It's not just the driver driving, because you can't do everything.
Right, it does. You know, you can take a great driver and put him in a poor car. He'll probably still take it up front, but the car won't last. You know, you can take a great car and put in an inexperienced driver, and it'll take you close to the front, but you'll never get over the hump. You know, and then you can take great driver, great car, subpar pit crew. You're gonna lose when you come down pit road. You're gonna lose.
So, well, before you go, Phil, what makes Jimmy Johnson, somebody like that, so great? What do you see and say, man, this dude was dominating for a while, you know, during this time frame? So what was so great about him?
Well, one, he could drive a loose race car. Okay, that meant he could take it out on the edge, the back end's hanging out, but he still stays in the throttle. So he's not losing the 2/10 to 3/10 a second every lap the other individuals are. And that's all they're losing. You know, it's not like they're 2 or 3 and 4 seconds behind. They're not. They're tenths of a second behind. But as you add that up every lap, you're losing time. He could do that and still stay in the throttle. He could have the car sideways. Same thing with Kyle Busch. You know, same thing with Kevin Harvick. When you think about it, when your car fishtails on the highway, you don't stay in the throttle. You let up, right? Or you might even hit the brakes, right? You've had that feeling. You get that pit in your stomach. Man, they don't have that problem. They stay in the throttle and they keep going fast. So at the critical moments, when other people are easing up a little bit, slowing down and not taking the corners, right? He's full go in the throttle and he's pulling away. And he does it lap after lap. Their consistency, lap after lap, and their concentration is crazy, you know, and the way they do it, you know, it's people think that, you know, you can get in a car and drive a race car and this and, you know, I tried it once, a couple of times on a racetrack with a personal car, and man, I was rolling, you know, and the wall was coming up, and I was hauling, I was really moving. I looked down at the odometer, I was doing 35 miles an hour. So I was like, man, what is going on here? Now, of course, being in the passenger car, I wasn't getting the tire feedback wasn't good. You know, the tires were rolling over, and I was looking off the front of the hood, and when I should have been looking down the track. So all I saw was the wall. But to just even think about doing what they're doing, it's kind of like saying, well, I'm going to go up against LeBron. And, man, I can throw up a shot and hit the basket. That's not true. It's not true. If he's guarding you, you might not even see the basket.
Phil Horton, man, you are a legend, brother. We really appreciate you checking in with us, and good luck this weekend in Daytona. Good luck this weekend in Daytona. All right, my brother. This is Phil Horton, Director of Athletic Performance for NASCAR. Hey, we got to get you back on soon, man. Appreciate you. For sure. Have a good one.
All right, later, Phil.
Hey, fellas, we're going from one legend to another now. We're losing Phil, but we're gaining another legend, one of the great writers in America, a longtime friend, my good friend, David Steele. David, you're on mute, brother.
And another person I had in my market. So I had David out here for a while.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I have to ask David, where are you these days? I don't know if he's in San Francisco, Baltimore, Florida. How you doing, brother? Welcome to the show. You're on with Tim Turner and Michael Robinson.
Guys, it's been a long, long time, you fellas. It is really, 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 really good to see all of you. And I am in Maryland. I'm right between DC and Baltimore. And yeah, it's so strange. I've been away from Florida for a while. I've been away from California for a while. And I've been here for a few years now. But man, it's good to see you guys. And thanks for having me on, Rick. I can't lie. It's been great.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hey, first of all, I want to get all you guys. And first of all, we got to thank Phil Horton. I mean, that was just fantastic. And Tree McDougal, we're going to try to make sure Phil gets down to Savannah State and meet with you all. So Tim and Mike, y'all going to have to get together, get those numbers and information, because that would be fantastic. But we had the Super Bowl the other day. Tom Brady wins another one. But I was really impressed, David, with Tampa Bay's defense, and very impressed with that very diverse staff that they had.
Man, I didn't know. I didn't think that we would ever get to the point where we would see a staff like what Bruce Arians put together in Tampa. And he was doing really good things in Arizona, because he had Todd Bowles there before he took the Jets job, and he gave Byron Leftwich the opportunity that he probably deserved right then. And if Byron Leftwich had been on some other team, he might not have gotten promoted to, or at least put on the path to where he ended up. And once Bruce Arians got down to Tampa, he brought those guys together, brought together some more coordinators, more assistants. So just casually, nonchalantly adding women to the staff. And it's an amazing thing. I did not think that I would see a staff like that even in the year 2021, but here we are now. It's almost like the whole world is wide open to what the possibilities are. And Bruce Arians gets really all the credit for opening those doors like that.
And he was asked about it Sunday, and he was talking about, women have been able to do this job. Minorities have been able to do this job. He says, you guys give me too much credit on offense. Byron does all the work. He says, I don't do anything. Byron does the work.
Right.
And then you see what happened on Sunday. It helps that you have a really great running game with a Fournette, and you have a couple of good receivers. Got Brown. He looks like he's been pretty good for a while. And you got this old guy who was, I think, the Mahomes might have been in grade school or kindergarten when he played in his first Super Bowl. So it helps to have Gronk and Brady. I reluctantly give Brady his props for winning his Super Bowls. 2 of them were gifts, because I'm down here in Atlanta. So
you saw.
Yeah. That was a gift, and the one in Seattle, the pass on the goal line, 2 gifts. But it was the winning quarterback, so I'm not, I saw the picture.
The tuck rule in New England that year.
Yes,
right, absolutely. That's where it all started.
Dude, man.
That's where it all started.
But
well, you know what? Speaking of the guy's jersey you have on, that's still the elephant in the room, that he's still out of the league. Brady got the MAGA hat in his locker. Trump was like basically being a bully through all of this time. And Kraft, for some reason, somehow, all that legal stuff got shuffled under the rug. So even though, it's all this coordination for Brady and all that, it's still a lot of minutia going on that's still bad for this NFL.
Yeah. And that's the exact reason why what's going on in Tampa with Bruce Arians stands out so much, because it goes against literally everything this league has done, especially what they've done these last 4 years, 5 years, really, starting with the Kaepernick stuff, because they really just kind of laid it all out on the line. They told you exactly who they were, what kind of league they were, who they preferred as their core, who they were willing to pander to, and who they were not willing to pander to. We're an afterthought. We're the mules. We're still the we're still the ones who do all the heavy lifting, and somebody else, a whole bunch of other people reaping the benefits, and we will never get put into those positions of power, except for little jobs here, jobs there, an occasional person with a conscience.
Wasn't it kind of odd to see all the jobs filled in the NFL before the Super Bowl? It's as if people were like, we got to get these. We won't have any excuses to hire Todd Bowles or Byron Leftwich or Eric Bieniemy. We won't have any excuses left. Let's fill all these jobs before the game starts, okay? Let's do that. This guy who they hired in Texas, never heard of him, the Texans. Never, ever heard of this cat. He was supposed to be so great in Baltimore. First time I heard his name was when they announced him as head coach.
Hey, I had to look him up, and I've been watching that team close for like the last 15 years. So I'm like,
I believe it or not, I actually knew him. He played at when I was in high school. He played at Vandy. He was a quarterback at Vanderbilt.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. So.
Oh yeah, you're right.
They
that quarterback at Vandy back in the day. I gotta give him his props for that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It was like everybody had their jobs locked up before the Super Bowl. It's like normally a coordinator, defensive or offensive coordinator for somebody's team in that game gets a gig.
And they will hold on. They will keep the job open,
right,
for these guys. But they were not prepared for 3 of the 4 offensive and defensive coordinators to look like us. And so they said, well, we better go down and get the tight ends coach in New Orleans and give him the opportunity that he so richly deserved all these years. So,
hey, and then I hear this thing, Eric Bieniemy is a terrible interviewer. And did you see the guy the Lions just hired here in Detroit? What was his interview like?
Good guy.
I mean, come on, man. David,
Bite the kneecap.
All of us have been around a long time watching this. I mean, are we going to ever get past this? the lack of diversity in the NFL. We've had the Rooney Rule. You know, how is this addressed?
You know, I wish I had an answer because I feel like, I mean, we're all kind of in the same demographic right now. And as we came along in this business and covering these sports, I know for myself, and it has been the same for everybody I've talked to who's my age around that time about this. We all thought that by now, I mean, 2021 sounded like something out of the Jetsons. And we're just like, oh, by then, I'm sure we're going to have, you know, a bunch of jobs. We're going to be in management. We're going to be in charge. We're going to run our own stuff and be managing editors. And they're going to be all black coaches and black general managers. We're going to have a couple owners. We're talking about Oprah and Bill Cosby and all this stuff. Oh, that'll all be happening by the third decade of the 21st century. And the fact that it's gone backwards really scares me. It honestly scares me because it does make you think that it really is never going to change no matter what we do. We poured our hearts into this. This is all we've done. We've done shows, we've done columns, we've written books, we've done all these things to reverse this, and they have hung on to this with dear life, and made sure that we haven't come close to achieving the things that really should be ours and should have been a long time ago.
Yeah, we're gonna have
Bill Cosby's locked up.
That's right.
No, how ironic is that? Bill Cosby's locked up. Oprah's show is off pretty much because of the election of Barack Obama. You know, basically those white women that loved her said, I don't know, you supporting this Barack Obama guy. You're not our sweetheart anymore. So that's the irony of it, that they were the ones we looked up to. And they said, we're going to take care of them.
Yeah, we're going to have flying cars before they take care of this deal in the NFL. We will all
Flying cars and black head coaches.
Yes, before we have black head coaches, there will be flying cars, a bunch of them. That's just the way it's going. But you know, the NFL tried to pull the okie doke on us this week about how we're all in this together. We're all, you know, this kumbaya stuff they did all leading up to the game, and then they had the press conference on Friday, and they never mentioned the situation with the offensive lineman out in Seattle and what he's done, and the entire. I mean, ESPN gave some juice to it. It was reprehensible to me. It was far more egregious than what Ray Rice did, but it seems like that has been swept away and pushed away. And I would be surprised if this cat didn't find another job next year because nobody's making a big deal out of it.
I expect the same thing. And, you know, add to that, Andy Reid's son on the Chiefs coaching staff,
Right.
You know, may have maimed a child for life because he was driving drunk or under the influence of something. Right. And they tiptoed around that the entire weekend as well. And they're still doing it. We're a couple of days out from the game. So, you know,
the statements are really lawyered up. Then, you know, we're praying for everybody in the situation. I mean, including his son who drove the car while he was impaired and admitted as much to the police at the scene. And, you know, then having to have to do a GoFundMe for this little 5-year-old girl who has obviously suffered some severe damage to her that is probably going to, you know, be with her for life. We don't know that, but it's just, I saw pictures of her with tubes coming out of every part of her head the other day, and which is, you know, it doesn't have to happen because I think the minimum salary for an NFL coach is $400,000. I think he could have afforded to call Uber.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
We're talking with David Steele, longtime columnist for the Undefeated, author, and we got to talk about your book before you get out of here, too, David. And you're in Maryland now. I'm sure I know you're close to Baltimore. You used to work with the Sun. What are your thoughts on what's happening with the Ravens? The great young quarterback there. Do you think it was a down year for Jackson? And can he get better, continue to get better? Because it seems like he gets a lot of shade thrown his way by the national media.
He does. And it's a sign that this country really still isn't prepared to see someone who looks like him be in the position that a Tom Brady is in. we're still not ready to see the quarterback position manned by somebody who looks like him, who looks like Colin Kaepernick, even someone who looks like, Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. I mean, I know we could end up eating up the entire rest of the show talking about Deshaun's situation down there, but if it was anybody else, there's no way in the world the franchise would do anything to alienate him in any way. They would run every decision and transaction past him to make sure that they were all on the same page. Now, the fortunate thing for for Lamar in Baltimore is that the organization really has kind of rallied around him, but there are still certain things that you're concerned about in terms of which we see a lot with black quarterbacks throughout the history of this league. They when they see someone with that talent, they leave him out there to be by himself for the most part, do not give him any help. I mean, down in Atlanta, what do we see with Michael Vick, where he had no help for all those years? And, Mike has his own problems and sabotaged himself in so many ways. But Lamar, you get, give him the wide receiving help, give him the protection that he needs so that he doesn't end up doing what he did for most of this first half of this season. Second half of the year, he was great. In the playoff game that they won finally when they went down to Tennessee and sort of broke that playoff drought, he was phenomenal. That's really what his upside is. He probably will not be an MVP over and over and over again. I would bet that he has another one at least in his career because we've seen that potential. We know that he can go up. I look at this year more like a sideways year where they just kind of wave it off track in a lot of ways. I think he's going to be good. And the best thing about it is that the owner and the GM and the head coach are all behind him. And that's not the case with a lot of our young guys play this position, either right now or what we've seen over the years.
Far be it for me to spend somebody else's money, but if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm not playing this year. I'm making a point. I will make a point that you guys, I'm the franchise quarterback. You got to give me something on the head coach or the GM or whatever. Make sure that get somebody who plays to my strengths and not have somebody come in here who just because he's dealt with a running quarterback in Baltimore doesn't necessarily mean he's the same kind of cat that I am. That means nothing. So go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it. I want to see if he's going to be that guy who says, I have the leverage. Right. I am the quarterback. You need me. I can walk away from this. Then what are you going to do? And I want to see how that goes. I want to see if he's going to be the guy that does that. He's the guy who's capable of doing it. He's in a position to do that more than any quarterback or any quarterback who looks like him has been in a very, very long time. I think he should take advantage of it. I'm right with you on that.
But what about in Dallas? Do you think coming off of injury that they're going to give him Dak what he should be getting?
They should have given it to him already. If they ain't giving it to him by now, then I don't know if he's ever going to get it. He may have to look elsewhere. And to see what it's going to be like if he walks away and then thinking, we can replace him with anybody, knowing they lucked into him. Let's put that out there. They lucked into him. They should be on their knees just thanking just the football gods, everybody else, that he was floating around there in the fourth round and nobody had figured out that they took that.
Right.
But
Go ahead,
and again, the Patriots didn't say you're just a sixth round pick. We ain't gonna worry about you. They saw it was there and they said, okay, we're gonna put the team on your shoulders. We're gonna give you all the help you need. But I don't know if we're supposed to speak of him in the same breath as all the other guys because it's kind of taboo right now.
No, I think it's good because I saw something this evening. I was looking at a Facebook post of Jamel Hill about people trying to say that Brady's the greatest athlete of all time. And I'm going, I could beat him right now in a 4.
He's a great quarterback.
And I got a bad leg. No.
Right.
He's not the greatest athlete. He's the greatest quarterback to have played in the National Football League in terms of winning Super Bowl. But I think there might be a guy, Wayne Gretzky, out there in hockey. He might be a little bit better than him. There might be a basketball player who's now a NASCAR owner, Michael Jordan. He might be able to be a little bit, that guy's an athlete. I'm looking at people who play, Djokovic. Those people.
Hey, the guy's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I mean, hey, give him his props. Go ahead, Mike.
How's that not good enough? It's like, hey, you got more championships than pretty much every other quarterback who's ever lived. You're at the top of that heap. Congratulations.
Don't go beyond
Don't
that.
get ahead of yourself.
Do not go beyond that.
Don't stretch.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, for me, you think about it, it all started because Bledsoe got his chest caved in. We might have never seen him. And then, of course, if they didn't call that dumb tuck rule, who's to say that Bledsoe wouldn't have been back in the starting lineup? So it just amazes me how people say, well, we always knew he's going to be great. I said he was mediocre at Michigan. Greasy's the one that won the national championship. And then he comes in as the 6th round. He's on the bench, and it takes Bledsoe to get knocked out of the game and out for a while for him to do that. And then the tuck rule basically pushed him up into the limelight. Then he's a game manager in that Super Bowl against St. Louis, where Belichick's defense, or whoever the defensive coordinator was, defense is what did it. So that's the thing that kills me, is that, he has 7 rings, and then Skip Bayless, he has 6 game-winning drives. I'm like, yeah, Vinatieri won the game, not Brady.
Vinatieri won the Super Bowls.
He's on a ton of interceptions in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Yeah, put Adam Vinatieri in that conversation.
Yeah,
thank you.
He's the greatest. He's the greatest kicker
in the snow, kicking in the snow.
Yeah.
But we also have to go back to '74 though, where we had my guy from Tennessee State, starting and on a great team, and then we find out a little later that Al Davis told Chuck Noll that, hey man, maybe you should bench him and let Bradshaw take over.
Wait a minute, I've never heard
all the benefit.
Never heard this story.
They did it on a documentary. A documentary of Al Davis said that Bradshaw came to me weeping about when they lost to the Raiders. He came to me and said, you know what, I'm just not happy in Pittsburgh. And he said, I'll talk to Chuck for you. He talked to Chuck, and next thing you know, they benched him. And then he gets to reap all the benefits, Super Bowl 9, 10, 13, and 14.
Well, Joe was ahead of his time, man. They weren't ready for it. 1974.
You think cats aren't ready to play now?
Yeah,
right. Middle of the 1970s.
Heck, when I saw Warren Moon play in the Rose Bowl, I was like, "Who is this cat? What? What?"
Is that kind of again? And when he goes to Canada,
go to Canada,
it just goes crazy.
Hey, David, you've always been a strong proponent of athletes who are activists. You wrote a great book with Tommy Smith, Silent Gesture. First of all, you talk about the book and Tommy's legacy, and why is it so important in our community that our athletes, like the guys whose jersey you have on, are almost charged to be able to step out there and be bold. And then you have guys like Tiger who just, want to melt to the background.
Yeah, and you think about Tiger sometimes, and you think about how he came onto the scene, and his father said that he could be a guy that could change the world. And here we are 25 years later.
Well, David, let me stop you. Who's being vilified in that documentary. Okay? Yeah. They making him look horrible. If you guys ever watch that documentary, it's like all Tiger's bad transgressions because of his terrible father.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I literally turned it off maybe 20 minutes into it because they had a bunch of shoe company hacks just trashing Earl. And I'm just like, what is this? Right. But, that's the vision Earl had. And Earl's vision was right there and on. Tiger didn't follow it. You saw who Tiger did follow. And you're like, wasted opportunity. The thing I think that I learned the most about sort of during the course of not just, doing the book, but as I sort of pursued these things throughout my career in writing stories and features and columns and things like that those guys were really outside of the norm. The overwhelming majority, and we've seen this in the NFL for now 5 years with Kaepernick. Who stood by Kaepernick's side any of those times when it really, really got down to it? Was Eric Reed one of his teammates? he got blackballed too. But when he got right down to it, you just go down the list of guys over the years, and we're talking about all of them. We're talking about, Cam and Dak and Russell Wilson and the guys who had the visibility and the clout and the power during the last 5 years of what we've been through in this league and in this country, and how many of them actually stood out there. Not even so much taking a knee with him along with the games, just stood out there and said, he's right. He's doing exactly, we should all be doing this. I'm behind him 100%. You had a whole bunch of guys saying, oh, but I love the cops. Oh, but I love the military. My dad was in the Air Force, and my cousin is a cop, and we can, I love my flag. I love my, and they just pumped out. I don't know how else what's actually put it.
And then that's why I love LeBron James on these issues, because LeBron don't give a F. He will just say, F you, he called Trump a bum. I mean, but you look at the power he has being an NBA player and NBA players compared to the power NFL players. Some of them so restricted because it's such a short career, I guess, and the money's not guaranteed. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that is a big part of why, one, you do not get that sort of movement in the NFL, and two, why Colin was so brave in doing that. Because Colin knew, even at the time when he made the decision to do that, that was probably going to cost him his career, that they would find a playing related reason to get rid of him. Because even if, realistically, when you look at it, the whole football situation, the 49ers were a mess. He was he was out on the outs with the front office. They were looking for a way to either bench him or get rid of him. And a lot of people sort of make fun of it. Oh, well, you saw he didn't start doing that. I'd say, well, the thing is, what 99.999% of all other players would do would be not to rock the boat, would to shut up and just keep playing and keep your head down and just be in practice on time and all that stuff. Right. That's what everybody would do. He went exactly the other way and said, I'm going to put myself in even more danger and go ahead and do this. He did not have the leverage that Tommy Smith and John Carlos had, or that Bill Russell had, or Jim Brown, or Arthur Ashe, or any of these other guys that said, we have a great stage, we have a platform, we are champions, this is our opportunity to do this. He didn't really have that opportunity anymore, and he went ahead and did it anyway.
Hey, I gotta get this in. I just gotta get this in. Our friend Trudy McDougal talked about Tom Brady, the greatest. Nah, the oldest, maybe.
He is old.
That's a good one, Trudy. We appreciate that.
but the funny thing, David, is like of course, you and I experienced this Niner stuff with the Yorks and all that. So the thing that kills me is they try to make it seem like, well, I got cats even from my hometown. I'm like, how you guys know what's happening when I live out here? It's like, well, he didn't do anything to Nessa got in his ear. He grew up in this white neighborhood, raised by these white people. You got Marcellus Wiley and I'm saying that. And he doesn't know. I said, dude, he pledged a black fraternity. He knows something about being black. And then it's all about, oh, well, he wouldn't say anything because they were about to cut him. I said, dude, you realize he was minding his own business, sitting till Steve Weish came up to him and said, why are you sitting? He said, because I don't like what's going on. And there was an incident out here. Yeah, Oscar Grant, and then you had this other, I think, homeless guy that got shot up. And he said those two things spearheaded this. And I said, well, you guys stop making up stuff if you don't know what's happening, the reason why he did that. And it became a big issue because they made it one because they wanted to try to diminish what he's doing. And on the football field,
who was his coach?
Well, that's what I'm going to get to. So after they ran Harbaugh out of here, everything started to go bad. And then he got hurt. So when he's trying to come back, Tom Sula ended up coaching. Tom Sula, I guess, didn't like him, was basically benching him for Gabbard or whatever. And so then when he did get in, he was doing his thing. But they said, well, look at his record. I said, the team was horrible. Everybody started to quit. Everybody retired early. So it was just a disaster. And then they were talking about they were going to release him. So people say, well, why did you let them release you? Why didn't they re-sign you? I said, because they were about to do that. So he asked for his release.
And whoever coached him this last year said he was never a problem.
Right, that was what's his name? That was the old Oregon coach when he came out here. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's the
That was
thing.
when your boy Trent Baalke was running things. Who has another job? He got back in the league before Colin did.
Yeah.
You still Blake Gabbert. That's the one that got me. I mean, Blake, he's still playing too, isn't he?
Yes.
Blake
Bortles still playing. Yes.
Oh my God.
Hey, but look. My man Rodney Peete played 16 years, so I had to give my boy Rodney a shout out. Rodney, I mean, 16 years. Hey, look, one more thing before we go. I just learned today, Tim sent me a thing about Norfolk State not playing, opting out for spring football. And I believe there's a couple other schools that are opting out for spring football. Your thoughts on some of the FCA schools playing spring football and some of the HBCUs saying, hey, we're not messing with this at all. I think Morehouse, your alma mater, just cancel sports altogether, cancel football before anybody else. Your thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, that's something that just became so obvious to the people who are really, really paying attention that the HBCUs saw what was going on really, really early and said, no, we're not in a position to try to push our way through this. We're not in a position to put them kids through all that and have those parents have to explain to the parents of those kids, no, we're going to keep running your kids out there on the field. We're going to keep students running in and out of this school, just because of football money, whatever, however much money. Because even if it's not a lot of money, it's always a lot of money when it comes to the black schools. So that's not, every dime matters, as we all know. And most of the black schools, the first ones to close their campuses up. Black schools were the ones who shut down football fastest. They were the ones who, if they had to, shut down the basketball programs. We saw that with Bethune and FAM. And yes, and now they pushed football to the spring, and I think we're up to now 5 or 6 HBCUs that have said we're not going to play in the spring either. We're just going to try again in the fall. And they will tell you point blank, if you ask the commissioners, the athletic directors, the school presidents, it's like, this thing is killing us disproportionately. We're the ones who have the inferior health care. We're the ones where, we're literally at this moment, we can't get any vaccines. There's statistical proof and anecdotal proof where Black people can't get the vaccine any place they try to go. They can't get tested. They're literally the only people at the universities who can even get tested regularly are the athletes, and they're still getting tested less than, say, at Ohio State or
because they don't have the resources. They don't have the resources that everybody else has.
Exactly.
I'm thinking right now, I'm finding out tonight that Savannah State the women's game was canceled tonight. Women's basketball, a couple of men's games are being canceled this weekend. Baseball's teams, their season's has been pushed back because of COVID protocol concerns. So it's it's an ongoing thing. They're going to look out for their kids. They're not going to try to play through it. That they played a national championship of college football and played through it, was I thought it was foolish to even keep going on with the season. And then, if I'm a first round cat, I'm not going to get out there and play spring football a few weeks after the draft or before the draft or whenever the season starts. That's risking, taking money out of my pocket potentially. So I just think that it's been unwise to do this. I saw it with some hockey games tonight. I think the Flyers game tonight was postponed. They got these different series. People are patting themselves on the back. NFL said, we didn't cancel any games. Yeah, but you did have to push some of them back till Wednesday afternoon fighting against soap operas, But we didn't cancel it, Wife was looking for all my children, and they found another soap opera going on with the Jets.
Mike?
I was going to just say, Dave, we lost a lot of our brethren journalists, Sekou being one of them. So what is your what is your relationship been? What was your relationship like with Sekou and some of the other journalists that we lost?
Wow, man, that's I almost kind of dreaded when we kept with me Therese Paler today as well. I don't know if you guys well, yeah. And I mean, I knew it's been a lot. It's, and you know, I knew I'd only met Therese once at a league meeting, and he just impressed me right off the bat and said, "Man, I love what these young guys are doing, coming up into the business and sort of, you know, carrying the baton that, you know, a lot of us have handed off." I felt the same way about Sekou from back in the my days of covering a lot of the NBA, because he was always around, and he, you know, was a guy who was so close to like our generation, because he was, you know, sort of just again sort of tying the two generations together and stuff. John Smallwood and I went to Maryland together. You know, we've known each other literally like our entire adult lives. Marty McNeil was one of the guys I knew from, you know, back
Sacramento
days. It's just one guy after another. It's just this like a whole generation of Black sports writers that we're just losing so fast, so unexpectedly, and circumstance. It's a terrible loss, and it's, you know, we're all suffering, and this past year, it's just taken a lot out of us, you know, psychologically, physically, and just the people we will never see again.
Well, then they're naming their press room in State Farm Arena permanently for Sekou. They also are going to have an award for the Hawk player with like the award for the guy who has character, community involvement is going to be named after Sekou. And they're going to do a scholarship to a SWAC school, a kid who is interested in sports journalism. So, I mean, they give you the idea of the kind of impact Sekou had on the business and on the Hawks, because he covered the Hawks for the AJC for like 4 or 5 years before he went to the NBA. Here in Atlanta.
And you know, one more guy here locally, he's a local sports writer here in Detroit, Rich Cabello. We lost Rich about 2 weeks ago. Just a good dude, man, worked for a small outlet here, and just a prince of a guy. So it's been tough, but man, let me tell you, anytime I get a chance to get with you guys and David, man, you know, we go back 30 years, brother, 30 plus. It is always a blessing. And I want to thank all our viewers for tuning in tonight, and we'll be back here next Tuesday. And David, you can't be a stranger, man. You got to come back and visit with us.
All you got to do is call. I'll be there. You know that.
And check this man's book out. Check this man's book out. Silent Gesture with Tommy Smith, written by David Steele. For Tim Turner, Michael Robinson, I'm Ricky Hampton, and David Steele. Good night.